Hello everyone and welcome to Horizon Online episode 8. Now in my last Forza Flashback episode it was all about triumphing over adversity, and this episode of Horizon Online is pretty much exactly the same. You'll see me have to deal with an absolute asshole, and I'll let you see how it all turns out. So this is an R1 class race, and as you saw I got an absolutely incredible start. I couldn't believe it myself when it happened. But this is a track that's pretty much all long straights, and pretty quickly I get overtaken by a Bugatti Veyron Supersport, being driven by, what's his name? Life After Death. So I'm overtaken and there's pretty much nothing I can do. I just decide to settle in for the rest of the race and just hope to come second, because I know that my car isn't quick enough to beat him on the straights. But when it gets to a few of the corners, I start to catch up. I mean, these aren't really difficult corners, they're just, standard long straight corners, and he seems to not be able to handle them. And I start to catch up and I start to think to myself, well, maybe he's not actually that good. So I start to catch up as much as I can, and then we get to the last part of the race, which is quite a tight section of corners. He messes up, as you saw, because he just can't handle his car on anything other than a straight. And I go to overtake him, but then he knocks me and I end up coming in second by 0.01 of a second. Now you'll be able to see here in slow motion exactly what happened. I get into first, then you'll see he knocks me, then that puts me down into second. So the only reason that I finished second was because he rammed me, and that managed to allow him to get up into first right at the very last second. So at the time I was reasonably annoyed at that, but I wasn't too bad. It was just a little bit of a knock, and I wasn't expecting to win that race anyway, and I figured that he was so bad in those last section of corners that I'd be able to beat him in all the next races anyway, because I'm just so much better than him. So it came to the next race, and this is an A-class race. So I'm back where I like to be basically. I enjoy A-class races a lot, and I'm in a car, the Nissan Skyline, that I really enjoy racing in. In addition to that, it's also a short track with a lot of corners, which suits me absolutely perfectly. Now he gets a good start because he's first, so he starts in pole position, and he does mess up a little bit on the first lap. So that allows me to catch up, and we move on to the second lap, where he again makes quite a few mistakes. Now the difference this time is that he makes such bad mistakes that I'm able to overtake him, and I do a nice clean overtake down the inside, and that's pretty much the end of that. Or so I thought anyway. He comes up back on the inside of me and then knocks me straight into the wall and retakes first place. And now the picture of what this guy's like is starting to show itself basically. He's not very good, he can't handle the corners with his car, he can't race properly, always makes mistakes, and the only way he can win is by knocking people off the track. However, he makes another mistake straight away, so I get in front for the last lap, and I manage to get a little bit of a gap on him as well. And since I'm out in front, I'm able to extend that gap a little bit more, because I'm able to race as I would and take all the corners as fast as I can, which is a lot quicker than him. However, it's not always as simple as that, is it? It never is in Forza, any Forza game or any racing game in general, because this happens. Yep, knocks me clean off on the second to last corner is that, I think, and at this point there's nothing more I can do. I try my best to get back into him, but I can't, and that's the end of that race. Lost once again in second place, this time by 0.2 of a second, because he knocked me off a hell of a lot more than he did in the last race, and that made me a bit more angry than I was in the last race, I'll tell you that. And that anger definitely shows through in the start of the next race, where I just completely knock him off from first position. I really was pissed off at this point, I have to admit. He's knocked me off twice and won a race twice, even though he's absolute garbage just through knocking me off. So by this third race, where he started once again in pole position, I just thought, no, screw this, you're going into the wall. So he went into the wall. I end up coming second in this race, after having quite a good battle with this guy who wins. But at least managed to beat this Life After Death nutjob. And so that set up nicely the last race of the night, which again allowed me to use my favoured Nissan Skyline but this time was an R3 class race. And once again our friend Life After Death starts on pole position. And I just couldn't believe that he started in first position 3 races in a row when he's an absolute nutjob. But anyway, we get on with that. Now this race has a lot of long straights, and I knew that his car was probably going to be tuned that way. Because it always has been, and there's no point in him tuning it for the corners because he can't handle the corners. So I was in a bit of a bind. I managed to get into second and stay there for quite a while, but I'm quite a way behind the guy who's in first, and that really annoys me, obviously, because I really wanted to beat this guy on my own terms, not by knocking him off and not by him knocking me off. Now the immediate problem I had with this race is that I didn't know the track. It was completely new to me, and that puts me at a significant disadvantage. I don't know how fast I can take the corners, and as you saw just a little bit earlier, I make a mistake and hit a wall at one point. But I'm just at this point trying my best to stay on the track, take as much speed as I can through the corners without making any mistakes, and hope that in the future, in the sort of latter part of the stage, there's a few more corners which will allow me to catch up. And now I don't know whether there will be because I don't know the track, but that's just what I'm hoping for at this point. So we're just over halfway through this race, and I'm 2 seconds behind our friend Life After Death. But at this point a few corners start to rear their heads, and I can visibly see at this point that I am starting to catch up to the leader. It's not by much, but with each corner that we go through I do catch up a little bit, and at this point I start to catch up quite a lot. Now I'm in the zone at this point. I'm really wanting to beat this guy, so I'm just going hell for leather on all the corners. And I eventually get my reward because with about 20% of the race to go he makes a mistake, and I end up not being able to get out of the way and completely knock him off, and move into first place and get the win, which I was very happy about at the time, I've got to say. Now it was Life After Death's own fault for making the mistake that ended up in him losing the race, but I'd like to think that the pressure that I put under him by catching him up, it helped towards that. But he ends up coming in third, and essentially I get my revenge, which I was very happy about. So this has been Horizon Online number 8. I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'd like to hear from you if you've got any tales of coming up against people like this yourself. You don't necessarily have to have won in your tales about people like this, just share your experiences. So thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.